Thank you, and welcome to the Patriots 300 Level Podcast. My name is Eric. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin. Welcome back for our 48th episode this week, where we'll be recapping another Patriots loss versus the Buffalo Bills, previewing the Patriots' upcoming primetime game versus the Arizona Cardinals. As a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pat's 300 Level Pod for up-to-the-minute updates and commentary on news of the day, as well as at our website at pats300levelpod.com. So, Kevin, glad you're here. Glad you didn't drive off the road on the way home from the game last night. Once again, we're talking about another loss to the Patriots, our loss for the Patriots to the Bills. What are your just initial reaction and overall thoughts?
I think it's just the most. It's not disappointing. I'd say most depressing would be the biggest kind of word for this. I think disappointing is the Vikings, where you had that game in hand, you knew you could win it. This game was more just showing how far behind you are, the Bills, where Bill has said this last year at the end of the season, kind of asked that question saying, is this really who we are, or is this really a one-off? And we'll find out next year. And well, we're finding out now that wasn't a one-off last year. The Bills are just that much better than you. They, even though it was a 2-score game at the end of it, it basically felt like it was a 45-10 blowout. The Bills had control of the whole game pretty much from the start. And even though you forced them to punt, woohoo, but it didn't really. The Bills are playing a lot more conservative this week. I think number one, because it's their third road game in a row, and they're just trying to get out of here healthy. They knew they're better than you. They knew they could kind of exert their will whenever they wanted, and the Patriots didn't really have any answers for them, especially the offense. The offense is. I think that's the biggest story coming out here, but the defense also should not be left the hook for this. They weren't much better either.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I was surprised that I picked the Patriots to win, and I admitted last episode that it's not based on anything I've seen with my eyes this year. It's just sheer thought that Bill would have an answer for Josh Allen and the Bills because he had pretty much 10 months to game plan for this. Similar to when the Patriots played the Bucs last year. The Bucs were a better team, but he pretty much held them in check because he had an answer for them. And I thought he would have something like that. And the defense was better than the last 2 times you played the Bills, but you also weren't starting practice squad cornerbacks. I thought overall, I think just my biggest overall takeaway is how depressing and how ugly it is to watch this Patriots offense where it is right now, especially considering it's mostly the same players from last year. And this was a top 5, top 7 offense in the NFL. Yes, they weren't able to, they had to kick a lot of field goals because in the red zone, they weren't able to always execute, but they at least moved the ball up and down the field. And that's something that they're not even doing this year. But 2 is this still was a winnable game, but at no point after the second quarter did it feel like they could win. The game was in hand, or it was close enough where just you only needed maybe a third down stop or a touchdown once you get the ball, third down stop, and then getting another score. But it never really felt like that was achievable. So it was just frustrating to watch.
Yep, and I think, especially being at the game, really that last possession in the second quarter. Kind of really let everyone know this is the game it was going to be, and they really had no shot. Where that whole drive was just a culmination of really those last 2 drives that they had was a culmination of the whole season. The second to last drive,
that during the game, this just is the perfect definition of this Patriots team this year.
The second to last drive, they took maybe 40 seconds off the clock, gave the ball back to Josh Allen. They did. It was a 3-and-out. Gave the ball back to Josh Allen. With 2 minutes, I think 6 seconds left, with all 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. And then luckily they got the Josh Uche strip sack, but the Patriots ended up kind of ruining the whole play clock. This was the biggest issue where you could see night and day. Matt Patricia just doesn't have it. for as an offensive coordinator for him, where an experienced offense coordinator would have been in the ear of Mac Jones, telling what to do, and especially with that sneak, where it's just I didn't have a problem with the sneak to get the first down.
Yeah.
I did have a problem with them not knowing what to do after they had that first down. In a sneak, you can easily go ahead if you want to clock the ball because everyone's up at the line. So it's
Yeah.
not like you had wide receivers running 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. They could have either done one, two things. You give them 2 plays to go in the huddle to give them the sneak and then say, this is going to be the next play right afterwards. Or you say, clock it right afterwards.
Yeah.
But instead, they ended up wasting time or they ended up wasting a timeout on that.
They wasted a timeout on that. They wasted 11 seconds on the
previous one. Yeah. So it's just
even that previous play. If you look at the replay, Taylor Kyles has a good breakdown of it. It was actually a good play, but McDermott completely whiffed on his guy. Yeah. And that's the guy that broke up the play. But even still, you have to know there's a chance you might not get a first down because there's a lot of times this year the Patriots get stopped at or behind the line. So you should have you're running a risk of running the ball on second down. You should have a play in hand that you're going to call on third down. You hurry back to the line, or you just call a timeout right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't on the other situation. So it was just confusion all around where you should know you should be able to anticipate. That's the biggest problem with this offense is anticipation, where they don't know what's going to be happening next. And that's the problem in the red zone that they've had is that it gets the red zone and really from the 30 inward, it gets a lot tougher. You have to know what's going to be happening. You have to anticipate what the defense is going to be doing, and you have to anticipate a lot of different things. And that's the part where I don't think Matt could do it. I don't think he has a feel for the game of calling it. And I get it's his first year doing it, but the amount that this team has regressed offensively is ridiculous. They're at the bottom of the league in offense. They were, like you said, a top 10 offense in the league last year statistically. Nothing changed offensively. They've actually improved the people they have. It's a second year for most of these players together. They shouldn't be playing worse. They should be playing better. Yeah. So what's the one thing that's different other than Shaq Mason being gone is the coaching staff. So you can't go saying that the coaching staff isn't a problem. It is a problem. And as much as we gave them the benefit of that going into the season, and even you wrote an article before the season started, why this may not be as bad as everyone think it's going to be. And even we had Matt Chatham on, and he explained why it's probably not going to be that bad of a situation. It is. We were wrong. Yeah. I'm willing to admit it. We were wrong. We're wrong about a lot of things.
I don't know if we should be admitting that if we want to keep our viewers,
but we were wrong about that. I think both of us are in agreement. We were wrong about the need for an elite wide receiver. I'm willing to kind of make that after watching the last few games. If you don't have an elite quarterback, a top 2 to maybe 5 quarterback in the league, and I think we both of us like Mac, but we could say he's not that. You need a difference maker, whether it be a top 10 wide receiver or even a slot wide receiver that could do something, someone to make plays. And this team doesn't have it, and that's why they also struggle because no one can get open. No one. Everyone's kind of clueless, which is driving me nuts. Yeah. So like your 2 top players that you have on offense, other than actually Stevenson's your top one by far, but your 2 top wide receivers that you have, Thornton and Bourne, both of them have no clue what they're doing.
Top skill maker. I'd say Myers is by far your top wide receiver, but
your top skill players.
Yeah.
Bourne and Thornton, neither of them know where they're supposed to be. They're always making mistakes with the different routes they're doing. Bourne makes so many penalties because he has no clue where he's supposed to be. It's just really frustrating to watch. And again, this isn't the end of the season. So they do have 5 games to kind of right the ship. Is it going to happen? I wouldn't bet anything on it, but who knows? Maybe something could change, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we got into the Patriots offense a little bit more than I was expecting, at least at this point, because I was expecting more just breaking down the Bills game in general, but a lot of it is why the Bills game in general went the way it did. The offensive line wasn't that good. I thought Strange actually had a pretty good game. He had the one holding call, but
Mhm.
after that, I thought he was a big reason why Stevenson was able to get yards after contact on those big runs. I thought overall he did pretty good, but Owenu was awful. Andrews wasn't that good. McDermott was terrible. Trent Brown was bad, but I have to give a pass to him because he probably shouldn't have even been playing because if you had a healthy offensive line, you probably having Isaiah Wynn or Yadnik just playing. But I give Trent credit for at least pushing through because you
Mhm.
didn't have another tackle on your roster.
Yeah, and you
You
could
had to
tell
put,
he was out of it
yeah.
throughout the game, but
So
at
that's why
least
I give a pass to Brown on
Mhm.
that, but I at least give him credit for pushing through it because that couldn't have been easy.
Mhm. It's just like we said too. The whole problem with this offensive role, receivers unable to get separation. The
Yeah.
offensive line just the pressure right there they gave up 39.5%. And we've been kind of harping on this last 2 years. Anything over 30 is high.
Yeah.
40% is insane. That's the reason why Mac is running for his life, looking like a chicken with his head cut off. Literally
Yeah.
at the end, he's just spinning around, trying to run away from everyone. And it's actually it kind of shows off, like I said, he's not as slow as people think he is because he's actually looking pretty shifty back there. But
Yeah.
he can't be doing that every game. He's gonna get himself killed.
Yeah.
And uh they have to be better. This unit is better
Yeah.
than they're playing. And again, that goes to the coaching where who's the one coaching the offensive line? Not Patricia.
Yeah.
And it really like annoys me to say this too because I liked Matt coming into this. I think he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
It's just you have to look at the results and say finally at the end of the day, it's been more than half the season. The
Yeah.
offensive line has regressed. The offense has regressed. And who's the one in charge of both of it? It's been him. So
Yeah.
it maybe just offense isn't his thing. So
Yeah. I know.
it's
Granted, I wasn't really the biggest fan of his defense either. Granted, he won you 2 Super Bowls, but I still think if Brian Flores was the defensive coordinator in 2017, you'd have 4 championships in 5 years instead of
true.
3 and 5. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing also that we've seen is they're too predictable too, where 100% they're running it on first down,
Mhm.
and the O line isn't able to hold their blocks. And even when you have a top 10 running back in Ramondre Stevenson, if he's not, he has to break through contact. He
Mhm.
had 54 yards last night. He was getting hit behind the line almost every single time.
Yeah.
It's just all yards after carry. If you didn't have someone as special as Stevenson, this offense would look even worse.
Oh yeah. Imagine if Sony Michelle was still here.
I know you wouldn't be getting any yards. You'd look worse than the Broncos offense this year.
Mhm.
And then the receivers aren't, since you're setting yourself up into second and long, third and long, they're too predictable where you're doing that. You're not going to run any play action. So,
Mhm.
and then also they're not using any motion or screen, jet sweeps, any really trick plays other than that Marcus Jones touchdown.
Mhm.
That's not really a trick play. It's just using a different player for a
Mhm.
normal screen pass. So it's just too basic, too predictable of what they're doing.
Mhm. And I like to say I did call that the second I saw him,
Yeah.
because we're up in the 300s and my eyes aren't the greatest anymore. But I was looking, I was like, is that Marcus Jones? And then because I could tell by the number, and then he has that thing on the back. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Marcus Jones. And I was gonna say the guy next to me had binoculars, but he was talking to someone else. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's him. And then I was like, if I said to my friend next to me, I was like, if that's Marcus Jones, they're doing something with him because there's no reason for him to be out there if he's not.
Yeah.
And throw the screen pass. He goes on there, and something I've been calling for since they drafted him. I said that he played some offense at the end of his year there. Maybe we might see him in the slot because he's quick.
Yeah. He's probably your best
player
skill player
on
with
the
the ball
team.
in his hands.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't mind seeing him
Yeah.
more on offense. Not every play, but just like
Mhm.
occasionally. I'd
Yeah.
love to see him with the jet sweep or double reverse or
Mhm.
something like that too.
Yeah.
Just
But
get
it
the
also
ball in
gets
his
you
hands.
wondering though too, why can't they be doing something like that for Tyquan Thornton, where he's the guy that you drafted?
That's true, but Thornton's a little bit different of a skill.
Yeah, he's a faster player, but not quick.
Yeah, exactly.
So that could be also the reason. But maybe they get both of them involved. Maybe that'll be something they start doing more of.
A double reverse where you give it to Thornton, then Marcus Jones.
Yeah. but we'll see.
Yeah, but I
Anything
think just
else
one more thing
on?
I just wanted to talk about on the
Yeah.
offense before, or two things.
Yep.
The receivers too, like you said, is the since the offensive line couldn't hold up, the receivers aren't quick enough to get separation in under 3 seconds. And that's something that they're going to need to address this offseason of either getting a special player like a top 10 wide receiver, which I don't think they'll do, or drafting one in the first round. But you need to have someone that's able to create separation. We saw Diggs where just his route running was able to make Jonathan Jones look like a third string cornerback.
Yeah.
You need someone like that, even if it's just a slot receiver. And part of the reason that I think the offense is the way it is because Bill was expecting Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry to be the double tight ends creating separation mismatches, similar to the 2010 to 2012 Patriots offense where it ran through Gronk and Hernandez. And they just haven't lived up to what they were signed for, what you were expecting. And I thought, I said earlier in the season, the X factor on offense is Jonnu Smith, because if he plays like his potential, his talent, what he was signed for, this offense could really do something, but he's just been non-existent. Hunter Henry's regress. It's just frustrating to watch this whole team, offense especially.
Yeah, and just the two of them is just Jonnu Smith he can't block anymore. He's supposed to be a better blocker than Henry. He can't block. He makes too many mistakes. He makes too many penalties when he tries to block. And again, he had that fumble out of nowhere a few games ago, and then you just can't trust him. And then Hunter Henry, I like him a lot, but sometimes he's clueless too.
Yeah.
And he can't block as well. So you have two tight ends that can't block.
Yeah.
So it's just really frustrating to watch. Really this whole the whole team.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I would say, at least the last couple games, is Mac at least has looked good. I know Mac's numbers last night didn't look great, but what can you really ask of him to do when he has to throw the ball in under 3 seconds and the receivers can't get open in under 3 seconds? And it's second and long, third and long, and the play calling is what it is. I know that he had that tirade on the bench, but Brady would have been doing the exact same thing. I don't mind seeing that. You see his passion. And I know there's some people that think Mac's not the answer, that you have to get rid of him and move on. Our dad's one. One of our friends is another that said that Mac is terrible, which I don't know how you can judge Mac overall based on his season this year. If anything, it's kind of shown me a little more the last few games. Yes, the beginning of the season, I thought he was pressing too much, but after the Bears game, he's kind of settled in, and his numbers don't look as good as last year. He doesn't, but it's also, even though it's the same players, it's a different offense, and it's a worse offense.
Yeah, I think overall, I don't know if I was telling you this or someone else, but this whole year was kind of a waste for evaluating Mac, where you really don't know what you fully, you think you know what you have in him. I think both of us think that he's a top 15 quarterback, has the potential to be top 10 and getting in there at some point. I don't think he would crack top 5 at all, but who knows?
I think he can crack top 5. Not within the next couple of years, but I see his ceiling as being a top 5. I don't know if he'll get there.
Yeah,
but I could see that. And I know Mike Reese was saying this past week after those bogus Brady rumors, he was saying that the Patriots love Mac Jones, are extremely high on Mac Jones. And I completely understand why. It's just, it's frustrating from my perspective, seeing other fans not realize that, or just just as a fan base as a whole being so spoiled from 2001 to 2018 with Tom Brady, that this offense is similar to 2019 where a lot of people thought Brady was cooked, but it's worse play calling. It's similar, bad offensive line, similar receivers not being able to get separation, get open. Maybe a better running game, but you can't run the ball when your offensive line is this bad. So
yeah, that's probably the best comparison to use, because there's even a few Zappy chants in our section, which drove me nuts. Because if Zappy was in there, he would have looked like Sam Ellinger probably. Just the amount of pressure that was getting. There's nothing he could have done anything differently. He would have been probably worse. So Mac, I feel like this year is just a complete throwaway where you can't evaluate him really at all, because this whole year was a disservice to him with the play calling, the offensive line, the way it's been, the receivers. It's just really frustrating that it was a kind of throwaway. This is the year he should be taking the next step forward,
Yeah.
and he couldn't. So year
Yeah.
3, Josh Allen, that's where he started taking the next step, with Brian Dable. So there's still, it's not a total waste for him, but
Yeah.
it's
And
just
I think you've seen some improvement, like the Vikings game. You've seen him make throws that last year he
mhm,
didn't. But
yeah. But that's the frustrating part. And even Matthew Judon, where he's
yeah,
30 years old now. So you've wasted 2 of his, basically the last 2 years of his prime.
yeah,
He's probably going to start to slow down the next year or two. You would think when he's 31, maybe 32 or 33, he'll start slowing down.
yeah.
You just wasted that year for him there. But again, season's
They can
not
turn
over.
around.
We keep talking like this was the last game of the year, or they're out of the playoffs. They're not. But well, as we'll talk about in the future on this episode, it's gonna be a tough road. All
Yeah,
right, going
if they
quickly
play
to
like last
the
night.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's really much we need to go over with the defense and Josh Allen stuff.
There's a
Because we kind
little
of
bit,
given a
but
little bit of a high level thing here. I would say the biggest thing, Jonathan Jones played awful.
yeah,
This is his worst game of the year. 9 for 11, 89 yards, 140 passer rating against, and Duggar wasn't much better either. Didn't look that great in this game. And again, with Jonathan Jones, everyone was saying a few weeks ago he's going to get paid in the offseason. I don't know if he is. And if he is, the Patriots definitely aren't going to pay him based off of this game. I think they
yeah,
actually have a better chance, and they'd be more likely to let him walk and just have Jack Jones take his spot, because he showed a lot more promise in this game, even with those 2 penalties. One of them wasn't really his fault.
yeah,
But yeah, it was just the biggest thing too in this game is that they kept on getting about 4 to 5 yards on all of their runs. So they
yeah,
basically just ran it down your throat, and they're not a good running team. The
yeah,
Bills, they're not known for their running at all, and they just kind of ran it at will. And part of it is, I think, what the Patriots' game plan was, where you could see they were willing to give up the run to try and guard the pass. And it's kind of that same sort of thing where when they face Peyton Manning against the Broncos, they let them run 250 yards in that game because they just wanted to limit Peyton Manning. So I think they had the same sort of game plan here. It was just death by like 1,000 cuts with us. So
yeah. And I thought the biggest thing for me that was at least a positive for the defense was the pass rush didn't break contain. They kept Allen in the pocket, and he ran the ball 5 times for 23 yards if you don't count the kneel downs.
mhm.
And overall, like Allen had a pretty good game, but it didn't have anything similar to the 3 of the last 4 times you played him,
Mhm.
where he was only 22 at 33, 223 yards, 2 TDs, was sacked twice. But the pass rush, actually, for the most part, there's one time where Uche broke containment, went too far up. But overall, that was the biggest positive for me, because that's something we haven't seen with them. And this is a game type of player or type of game that Matthew Judon isn't really as successful in,
Mhm.
where he usually gets his best success against a pocket passer. And again, like last night, he didn't do great. He wasn't great. He wasn't horrible, but on some runs he was. But I thought that was at least a positive and something good going forward, where next time you play him, if you can do the same pass rush, get some pressure without breaking contain, not forcing him to scramble and run, you might get success. He did
Mhm.
throw a couple passes that were close to being picked, or were in defensive players' hands or within the vicinity. So
Mhm.
um, it was okay. But overall, the running game especially is what pissed me off so much, because they're not a good running team. Where Dalvin Cook last week, they held to 44 yards.
Mhm.
Dalvin Cook's rookie younger brother, who's not that good of a runner, ran for 64 yards on only 14 carries.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think one big thing that a lot of people might forget is there was no Jalen Mills last night, and also no Christian Barmore because he's been on the IR. But I
Mhm.
wonder how big of a loss Mills was last night if you had him. And he also missed the last 2 Bills games, I believe, too.
Mhm.
So
I think the Barmore one is probably more problematic than Mills was for
yeah.
this. Um, but we'll have to see. Anything
And
else you want?
just if you look at the stats too, just for the wide receivers, if you went into for Kevin, if you went into this game where you were told Diggs would have 7 catches, 92 yards and a touchdown, McKenzie only 5 catches, 44 yards, and Gabriel Davis 2 catches and 15 yards and a touchdown, what would you say? And Dawson Knox 0 catches. What would your thoughts be? You would
I would
think
say it would be a close game,
yeah,
and the defense did its job. But
exactly.
if you actually watch it, and that's why you can't always use stats.
No, I
Um,
agree 100%.
is
So
that
like the defensive backs did okay, but there were some times where Allen just made a really good play, like the I believe 3rd and 9, where he did like the shot put pass for first down. That was just a play that only a special player makes. But
yeah,
even though the defense didn't give up a lot of yards, they were horrendous on 3rd down.
yeah,
9 of
and
14.
then I was gonna say, and then you have that play where Jonathan Jones ended up giving up on the play and thought that Allen was going to go to bounds, but he didn't. And then there was the Miles Bryant one, which really annoyed me, where he just never touched the guy. He wanted to just try and tackle, punch the ball out rather than just mark him down. So that part, Miles Bryant, I don't know what he's doing out there. He's a nice player. He tries really hard. Marcus Jones, I think has more upside than he does, and I don't know why he would be Miles Bryant would be playing over him.
I think part of it might have also just been that since Mills was out, you had to go with the 4 cornerbacks. But
Right.
yeah, the 3rd down, just once again another big game versus a good team where they just can't get a 3rd down stop.
All right, moving on. 3 up, 3 down. This is, I think, pretty easy. We have the same. I have a little extra for downs. So 3 up. We'll give just list them all 3, and we'll kind of go. You can talk about the first, and I'll then go forward.
Yeah, it looks like we both have the exact same in the same order for both up and down. My 3 up were Stevenson, Uche, and Marcus Jones. I'll go with Stevenson first. 14 carries, I believe, 50 yards, where he was pretty much getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, and he looked like Marshawn Lynch beast mode, where he'd be tackled at or wrapped up 1 yard in front of the line of scrimmage and gets 8 or 9 yards. And he played every but one snap. The one snap he didn't play, Kevin Harris played and ran right into the offensive line for like a 2-yard loss and then never saw the field again. So it's frustrating because I'm worried he's going to get run down. It's good that you at least have like a mini bye before you play the Cardinals next week, so he has some time for rest, but this isn't sustainable. Having him play every play and be used every play. It's one thing to be on the field every play, but it's another to have hard contact, where hard runs along with catching it and having to break tackles for gains and pass protecting.
Yep. Not really much to add there. He's your best offensive playmaker right now on this team by far.
I think he's your best player on this team.
Yeah, it's between him and Judon, between your best player. And he's really your only elite player you have on offense. No one else is. And this is a team that's lacking like blue chip players. So he was the best by far. And Josh Uche was the second one. So Uche, he's really coming on late. The last, was it 4 games or so?
Last 5 games, he has 7 sacks.
Yeah, so he's been really coming on. I think his technique has gotten a little bit better too.
Yeah.
Because there's just we had retweeted it. There was the strip sack where he was going against their backup left tackle, so it wasn't like he was going up against someone that was actually good. But to still credit him, the move that he made to get by the left tackle and still maintain his balance and speed was really kind of nice to watch. So he had a good game for that. Again, he did break containment one of the times, but there's not really too many ups that we can have. So,
and there was also a run, I believe, on 2nd down where he made a really nice play to stop him at the line of scrimmage. So it wasn't just pass protecting or pass rushing too. He did have the 2 sacks and the strip fumble, but he was also being able to play more than just on 3rd down rushing passer. And then Marcus Jones, your only touchdown in 2 of your last 3 games. I mean, he has to be in there, but it's good seeing that you at least have a explosive player that can be utilized in all three phases of the game. Similar to how I wish Will Blackman was former Rhode Islander was used when he was in the NFL, because when he was at BC, he was wide receiver, cornerback, and kick returner. But I think that he's someone that is a special player that they can use in unique ways, especially if Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator. But that's besides the point.
Yep. So we'll get into that in one of the 5 questions. So not really anything to add there. I think you really summarized that pretty well. 3 down. So we got Matty P, Steve Belichick, and Bill Belichick. I also added in Jonathan Jones and Miles Bryant in the offensive line just because it was just that bad of a debacle. I'll start with Matty P, and then I'll give you Steve. It's just like I said, I don't think there's really much to add here. I basically talked about this ad nauseum. He's just, the offense has regressed in the last year, and the only thing that's changed is him. They've added players, and they haven't really subtracted, and they're just worse. So that's it.
Yeah, it's just frustrating, and clock management is an issue. Players not knowing where they're supposed to be, and for the first maybe 8 games or so, like I was putting it a lot on. I was hesitating on fully blaming it all on Matt because you'd see players where it's not knowing situational football, where you're getting a key penalty, unforced penalty on first or second down that pushes you back, or in key situations. But the more I think about it, and the more you watch this team, I believe that goes back to coaching. And that goes back to players not knowing to be in what situations they're supposed to be in and causing those errors. Like a holding penalty, sometimes you can't control, where if a guy beats you, you sometimes have to do that. But a false start or going to block the wrong guy and having a play blow up, a lot of that goes back to coaches making sure they put you in the right spots. And that's just something that this team just hasn't done all year.
You know, go over Steve.
Yeah, he's the thing with him that frustrates me, and granted, part of it is you don't know who's really game planning which week, but there are some weeks where he's excellent, like the Lions game earlier this year. Granted, the Lions suck, but they came in with the best offense and they shut them out. They shut down the Jets after the Jets beat the Bills. But then there's games like this, or versus the Ravens, or versus the Bears, where they just have no idea what they're doing. And I at least have to give credit that it was better than the last 2 times you played the Bills, but those were the worst defenses I've ever seen from this team. And you let a team that doesn't run the ball well run it down your throat. You're putting players not in situations to succeed, and it's just frustrating to watch.
Yep. Nothing to really add there. Bill, I think the reason why we probably have them both on, I'll give my reason, you might have something different, is just he's the one that set up this whole plan into motion. And he's had the whole year to kind of game plan for Josh Allen, and that's really all they did. What they did wasn't enough. It wasn't anywhere close to being enough. And it's probably one of his biggest coaching mistakes is having Matt and Joe be the offensive coaches. And again, like we had said, the media said that they could foresee this coming because they wanted a story that they wanted to write about, but no one thought it was going to be this bad. No one could have projected it was going to be this much of a debacle where they're not bad coaches either. At least I don't think they were. They might. Maybe the Lions and the Giants organization should have showed us more, where maybe they're just not good coaches, and maybe they were all of the years beforehand they were kind of brought up just because Bill was there and they had other good coaches around them, where there's been a big coaching drain over the last 5-6 years where you've lost a lot of good coaches. And I don't think you really replenished them. I think the best kind of young coach they have right now is that running backs coach, because the running backs still look Stevenson's really kind of gained performance over the last year.
But I also don't know if that's the running back coach or if that's just Stevenson just being a beast. Stevenson and Harris, but you look at the rookie running backs and Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, and they're shit. So
but Other than that, they don't really have that many coaches that maybe they were just kind of hidden because of that, and maybe they're just
Yeah.
not good coaches. But who knows? But
Yeah.
it was a mistake, obviously. And who knows? Maybe we're gonna all be proven wrong in the next
I hope
5
so,
weeks.
but I'm not
I don't think
expecting.
so. I wouldn't bet any money on it, but maybe we'll be proven wrong. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Nope. That's pretty much all I have to say too. Is
Oh, one thing too I want to say before going on, because I'm gonna forget to say
yeah.
this. For anyone that's trying to say that Bill should be fired over this is
Yes.
insane and
Thank you.
needs to go to jail. Because if you look around the league, and would you rather have Hackett or Staley or what's his name for the Bengals, Taylor
Taylor,
or Stefanski or
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury, or the list can keep going on and on
Yeah.
and on and on and on. Matt Rule,
LaFleur.
LaFleur, even Kyle Shanahan's a dick. But
Campbell.
Campbell, just the list can get really, really big. And
Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles, the other guy before, what was his name?
Arians.
Arians, the guy in the Cowboys,
Yeah. McCarthy.
McCarthy. We can just keep listing coaches. This is probably 90% of the league has bad coaches.
Yeah. Tomlin.
What's the odds that actually I wouldn't say Tomlin's that bad though?
I still think he is, but the last few years he's impressed me a little bit. But
Yeah, the amount that he's done with nothing. But
yeah.
if you just look around the league, you're more likely to have a bad coach than a good coach. Where Bill made a mistake, obviously, with this.
Yeah.
And again, someone was drafting before wasn't perfect. But you look, he's been drafting for what, 20 something years. You're not gonna hit on every single draft. So just because he's been around for so long, there's odds are he's gonna miss on some drafts.
And since they were so successful, he's drafting at the end of each round too.
Yeah. So he's not the problem. He made some mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And the big thing is, what is he going to do to fix it? And I don't think he's going to sit around and let's say the year continues the way it's going, where Matt has no grip over the offense, has no idea what's going on. And let's say even Bill takes over the offense or whatever. I don't think he's going to come here next year and say that was a success. We're just going to do the same thing. First of all, he's going to lose the entire team by doing that.
Yeah.
Second of all, he's not an idiot. He wants to win, and he needs to win in order to pass Shula. So he's going to do whatever he can to win, and he's not going to let it continue. So,
and 3, I don't think RKK would let it continue.
Yeah, and if Bill tried to let it continue, I think the Kraft, the gift and ultimatum said they're gone or you're gone, and then I don't think Bill would leave because he's not going to want to start up again at a different organization at 71 years old. It's just way too much work, way too much effort. He's very comfortable here. And I get Matt's his friend, but he can easily not fire him and just move him to the front office, move Judge to special teams where he probably should be, and do something with Cam McCord. Maybe make them co-special teams coaches. Who gives a shit? But it's just we have to see what happens after this offseason. You can't go just trying to write him off. Where let's say I don't think Bill's really lost an edge. I think he's lost some of his competitive edge where I don't think he does as much, where he isn't putting as much work as he used to, where he would be living and breathing and sleeping there. But what person does that now?
Which it might be another reason too that we'll get to in the 5 questions.
Yeah. All right. So I kind of talked at nauseam there, kind of dragging us out. So let's get this hurry up so we could finish the episode within an hour. So let's bang through these 5 questions and try and run through this Cardinals game. And I think that'll be pretty easy. We got probably 20 minutes. Let's see if we can do it. 5 questions real quick. If Josh McDaniels was the Patriots offense coordinator this year, what would their record be? Right now, they're 6-6.
So there's 2 ways you can answer this question. If you just say, looking at each specific game, I'd say they'd be 7-5, 8-4. Because if you look at the Ravens game, I don't think having McDaniels would have been the difference. I thought Patricia actually called a pretty good game there. Bears game, the defense was shit, so they wouldn't have won that. This Bills game, I don't think they would have won because the defense wasn't playing good enough. And it was a good defense too. Miami, maybe they would have won Miami, but it's tough to win in there. So that's why I go with 7-5, only the Vikings game being different. However, if we answer this question a little differently, if you have this entire offense in Mac Jones, have the entire offseason with Josh McDaniels, not changing the offense, having the entire training camp and everything, I could easily see them winning the Ravens game, winning the Miami game. If he got hurt in whatever game that was at the end of Ravens, maybe they still beat the Packers with Bailey. If Josh was here versus the Packers, I still don't think they do enough. Maybe they do, but it's tough with a third string rookie quarterback. So I could see them being anywhere from, what are they, 12 games, anywhere from maybe 9-3 to 7-5.
Yep, I think that's the biggest thing, where the amount of time that was spent in the offseason, they would have been improving upon what they did last year rather than changing things.
Yes.
And so I think Miami game they would have won because that was a close game and the offense played like garbage.
Yeah.
So I think they would have played a lot better if Josh was here. The Ravens game, I don't think Mac would have had as many turnovers because he wouldn't have been trying to do as much in that game. So I still think the Ravens game they might have won. And you can't go game by game, but it would have been a better product, and it easily would be 6. It would be at least 2 to 3 more wins they would have had.
Yeah.
So I would say 2 or 3 more wins because of that. And I think they'd be clearly a playoff team if Josh was here.
Fighting for the division, considering how tight the division is right now.
It's a shame that that John Gruden had to be fired because not a shame for why he was fired, but just because he's fired, they can't fire Josh right now because they don't want to pay 3 coaches.
I don't think that's the issue too. I don't think Mark is as irrational as his dad, and I think he knows it takes time.
Yeah, because you even saw him with the Gruden thing. He didn't want to fire him at first, and then finally gave in. But next one, who should be and who will be the Patriots offensive coordinator next year?
I think there's only Bill has never hired a coordinator that has either never coached under him or never coached with him. So that's why it limits your options of either Chad O'Shea or Bill O'Brien. I could see Bill O'Brien coming back if he wants to go to the NFL, and then, or if he doesn't, then Chad O'Shea. But I don't see it being Adam Gase unless it's some head coach that's fired that Bill is friends with that he would trust. But you're very limited in options you have, unless
that's a tough thing. We were kind of talking about this earlier, and there's a few different hypotheticals that I had out there. One would be you have Bill O'Brien come back, and we know the problem why one of the 2 reasons why Bill didn't come back this year was that he's basically going to be a 1 or at most 2-year rental. So you bring Bill O'Brien back knowing that he's probably not going to stay here for a while. But you have someone else waiting in the wings saying, after Bill leaves, you're getting room while Bill's here, and you're going to learn from him and be the quarterback's coach. So that's why Charlie Weiss Jr. I think would be a good option, where you bring him in as quarterback's coach, or even Nick Caley. The reason why Nick Caley didn't re-sign his contract, and that's why this year's his last year, because he didn't really know what was going on with his. He didn't like that he was kind of passed over and didn't really know what his situation was going to be. So maybe you have him be quarterback's coach and say, once the next person you can learn more from, you didn't really have that much to learn from yet. And then kind of get groomed that way. I could see that happening. The one problem with Bill O'Brien that we didn't mention yet is that his service is going to be wanted by a lot of people. A lot of people in the NFL are going to want him. And I could even see Josh McDaniels wanting him, but they also have Mick Lombardi there, so that may make it a little bit more difficult. The other option would be Nick Caley. They could use because that would be an internal solution.
But the thing with Caley though is, I feel if they thought that he was the guy, they would have gone with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then the other option would be O'Shea, like you said. I don't think Adam Gase is going to do it because if they wanted Adam Gase, they would have gotten him already because I think he's a high school coach right now. So
and the thing with him is Bill never coached with him, and the only reason for the connection was he was supposedly an offensive genius, and he coached under Josh before. But
so that's really the only things. I don't know if Bill does have a lot of college friends.
That's true.
So there could be someone that gets canned that runs a similar system. Maybe
James Ferenz's dad.
I don't know enough about like the different systems. Most of the
Yeah.
college systems all spread, so it's not very similar. Alabama is one of the different ones where they actually run a pro offense. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think that Matt is going to be back as play caller unless things drastically change over the next 5 or is it 6 games?
5 games.
5 games.
Hopefully 6.
Yeah. So I don't see him being back. Next one. How would you regrade the Patriots 2021 free agent signings this season?
I'm just saying as the class as a whole, not each individual.
Okay, good. Because I say we're not going through all these.
No, I just listed that so you can look at
that. I'll say a B.
Still?
No. C. The reason why B I was going to give was because Judon I feel like would really elevate it.
Yeah.
I'll just listen really quickly so everyone can hear him. Judon, Jonnu Smith, Henry, Bourne, Aguilar, Mills, Vinoy, Godchow, Karras, Anderson, McMillan, Trent Brown. So I think Judon's an A, Trent Brown's a B plus, Henry's a C plus, B minus, and Mills is a C. Everyone else is ugh.
I'd put Mills higher than that. But the reason why I asked this question was after last offseason, after last season, Bill was executive of the year, and a lot of it was due to the 2021 offseason acquisitions, where Judon was really great, and he's had an even better season this year. Henry was good with 9 touchdowns. Bourne was your best player. Henry and Bourne have regressed dramatically. Aguilar has been bad. He showed some signs last year, but he thought maybe with the or at least I thought maybe with the offseason and connection, he'd get on a better connection with Mac, but he just hasn't been good. Jonnu Smith hasn't shown he hasn't taken a next step. Mills has been surprisingly good. Van Noy, you cut. Godchow has been better this season. Karras was good for you last year, but moved on. Anderson was cut. McMillan has shown signs, and Trent Brown. So I'd say overall it's a C plus, where you have some good players in Judon, Mills, and Godchow, but you also committed however much you have to Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry next year, plus Jonnu Smith the year after. And that's money that, unless they take a huge stride the rest of the season and or next season and the year after, that's just wasted money.
Yeah. I don't think the Henry money will be wasted, because I think if they have a better offensive coordinator, he'd be better utilized.
He still doesn't turn around.
Yeah,
he's
that's
too slow.
Yeah.
It pisses me off.
I think they need to he's most beneficial in like those 10-15 yard routes though. So I think they just need to learn how to use them better, and he's better up the seam too. So
yeah, that's true.
All right, next question. Top 3 positions the Patriots need to address this offseason, not including
in order. I'd say offensive tackle, maybe both offensive tackles, and then cornerback, and then linebacker.
I wouldn't even put cornerback in this thing. I would say
wide receiver, then cornerback. And the reason why I put cornerback over that is I think John Jones is gone. And even if he's not, I don't know if he's a real true number one, where if you're going up, we'll see over the next 5 games, but going up against stopping Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Waddle, or Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, we'll see how this defense schemes for that. But if you don't have a guy that can stop those guys, that's how you can beat this defense.
All right, so I'm going to go with linebacker, 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 offensive tackle, wide receiver. The reason I don't have corner in there, I think also I don't think Jonathan Jones is going to be back. It's probably going to be Jack Jones taking over the spot. I think he's going to progress even more, just based on looking at him and looking at him, seeing how he's going to do. So I think you're going to be not fine, but okay there if you have Mills, Jack Jones, and Marcus Jones.
But you're still missing another corner unless you're
but you don't really need a great 4th corner. So and maybe you could draft someone too, but and they hit 2 corners in this draft probably. So I don't want to go corner, but I would say linebacker, because they still have a great middle linebacker. Bentley's fine in the running game. Tavai is all right, but they don't have that 3 down, fast, speedy linebacker that can really do everything. And who knows? Maybe McGrone will do it next year, and because his knee still wasn't right this year, and they had a lot of promise for him. But they really need to get a better linebacker.
Yeah.
Offensive tackle, you've seen how bad this line is. They need maybe both because I don't know. I like Trent Brown,
Yeah,
but
me
you also
too.
need someone in the pipeline too because he's not going to be doing it forever. But
And you
you
don't know if
can't,
he's going to play every game too.
yeah. So you can't have Matt getting killed out there. So you need one or two offensive tackles, like you said, and then wide receiver. The reason why I just put it third instead of second was because you need an offensive line before you can actually throw.
Yeah.
So then wide receiver, you need to find some sort of elite wide receiver somehow, whether it be slot, whether it be a top 10 wide receiver. You need someone that can be a playmaker for him. And they don't have it. And like I said, if you don't have a top 5 quarterback, you need one of those receivers.
Or someone that can at least just get open, and
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just the quick slant, someone that gets
Yeah.
open and it's 2nd and 5 or 3rd and 2 instead of 2nd and 10, 3rd and
Yeah.
10.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do that, then you can open up the deep passes to Taekwon Thornton or
Yeah.
someone like that.
All right. Last question. How much of an impact has the departure of Ernie Adams been the last couple of years on this team?
I think that's something that just isn't talked about too much. And it's even as I was writing this down, I said, I don't know how we'll be able to really answer this because no one really knows what Ernie did,
Mm-hmm.
but and how much of an impact he really had. But
Mm-hmm.
I think looking at this offense, I don't know if this offense would look this bad even with Ernie, if Ernie Adams had some input onto the
Mm-hmm.
offensive game plans and everything. So I think it's unknown. I think it might be pretty big. Uh, but I don't know. I think that's just something I just put it in so we could bring it up and see and talk about.
Yeah, I think like you said, this is tough to kind of quantify. I think it's really more of the whole brain drain that's really happened with the
Yeah.
Patriots, where you've lost a lot of good coaches over the years. Um, Josh McDaniels, Ernie Adams, Ivan Fears, um, everyone on defense pretty much. So it's just been one after the other, and I think they need to do a better job of kind of replacing that and we kind of regrooming and regrowing. But again, yeah, I think some of the play clock issues wouldn't be an issue if Ernie was there because he'd be more in the headset saying, "Make sure you tell him this, make sure you tell him that." But yeah, it's just I think he had. It definitely has to be talked about. You can't quantify it.
Yeah. No, that's
All right,
fair.
moving on. Cardinals. They're 4-8. Their coach is an idiot. Their quarterback's an idiot, and they're coming off a bye week. Cliff Kingsbury, you got this great stat. I love this.
2021 just
From 2013, so including his college years, till 2021, in games 1 through 7, he's 42, 20-1. In the rest of the year, he is 16 and 43.
no, Kevin.
What?
He's 17 and 44. It was missing 2 games.
Oh, whatever. 17 of 44. So, I mean, the big point of this is that this guy is a fraud. He shouldn't be an NFL coach. If he didn't look like Ryan Gosling, he wouldn't be an NFL coach.
Every single year he's coached, including college, he's had a losing record the second half of the season. In the NFL, he's been 2-7, 3-6, 3-5, 4-6.
Has he ever had? Oh, he had 1 year with a winning record, right?
In the NFL?
No, actually, he was 8-8. Yeah, so 1 year with a winning record, right?
No,
And he
last
hasn't
year.
been fired.
No, he hasn't. He's last year they were
They're 10
11 and 6. And then they were 8-8 and then 5-9-1.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's kind of good about going into this game is that he hasn't been fired yet. So that gives you a little bit more of a chance. And then Kyler Murray has been not great this year. The problem, though, with Kyler Murray is he's the perfect quarterback to try and beat the Patriots because, like we said,
Yeah.
they have an issue with mobile quarterbacks. So is he going to be able to do it? Is he going to be able to do enough to kind of attack their weaknesses where they're slow at linebacker and they're not really quick there. And the other big thing is that they've got a decent wide receiver core. DeAndre Hopkins, which again, we're going against a lot of top wide receivers. AJ Green has been and then Rondell Moore was on my fantasy team. It screwed me the 1 week I started him. He's actually had a really good year, except for that one game where he went in. But he's coming off. He did miss last week with an injury.
Yeah.
So they're not as bad as at least their offense isn't as bad as they've been kind of playing. Their pass defense. I'll let you kind of talk about that. But anything you want to talk about the offense before I kind of move on?
Yeah, I think just one thing with their offense is it's going to be a good challenge for this Patriots defense, where they do have a good running back in James Conner, who led the league in touchdowns last year with 15. And they do have a mobile quarterback who is at least athletically good. He had the whole offseason thing where in his contract it was written he had to do film study because a lot of people, I guess, reports are he's really just thinks about himself and is kind of lazy. But he does have DeAndre Hopkins. There's AJ Green, who hasn't been good but has talent. Then if Rondale Moore plays, that's another good wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Zach Ertz was one of their leading receivers this year, especially with Hopkins being suspended the first 6 games, but he's out for the season. So Patriots at least catch a break there. But I think the big thing for this Patriots secondary is taking out DeAndre Hopkins. And since they don't really, if Moore doesn't play, I think the way you can do that is double team Hopkins and then try and let the other guys beat you. Mm-hmm. But you're also going to have to make sure you stop the run too, both running with the running back and James Conner, but also Kyler Murray. And that's just been the issue. And I don't know, when the Patriots played the Cardinals back in 2020 with Cam Newton as quarterback, they beat the Cardinals 2017, but Kyler Murray was also hurt in that game. He played, but he wasn't healthy and wasn't able to run.
Yeah.
So that's something where they did have success, but it wasn't a healthy Kyler Murray. So we'll have to see how that goes around this year.
We'll have to see if a Call of Duty update gets in there before.
That would be nice if there is, but
anything on the defense for the Cardinals?
Yeah, it's not that good of a defense. It's been inconsistent. Passing, they've allowed the 9th most passing yards in the league at 245 yards per game. They have the 6th highest pressure rate at about 25%, but they have their bottom half of the league in sacks with I believe they're 11th worst with only 23 sacks. Run defense, they've allowed the 10th least run yards per game, but they also have the 8th most yards per carry, which part of that might just be the other teams aren't running it as much because they're able to be successful throwing the ball. So, but we'll have to see. I think for the Patriots, one way to attack this, the biggest key is the offensive line has to actually hold up. And then you have to just not be as predictable offensively. It would be a big thing if Damian Harris is able to come back and is able to play, just because it'll give Stevenson some breathers where you don't have to rely on him every single play like they did the last few games. Cardinals this year, they're 4-8. Their wins where they had an overtime win versus the Raiders. They beat the Panthers, which everyone beats the Panthers. They beat the Saints and they beat the Rams, who were down. I don't think Stafford was playing when they played the Rams, but they haven't beaten any good teams and they haven't really lost to any bad teams. But they've had a tough schedule, but they've lost some tight games. They lost to the Chargers by 1. They lost to the Vikings by 8. They lost to the Eagles by 3. They lost to the Rams earlier in the season by 8. So it should be an interesting matchup. This should be a game the Patriots win to get back on the right footing. And if the Patriots want to make the playoffs, they're 6-6 right now. They have to at least go 10-7. So you have to win at least 4 of your last 5 games, maybe 3 of your last 5 and get lucky with some tiebreakers. But there is a way the Patriots can make the playoffs, but this is a must-win game considering how tough the rest of the schedule is. And the other thing is it's another primetime game. Patriots have lost 5 straight primetime games dating back to last year, including the playoffs. This is just a game that, yes, the Cardinals are coming off of a bye, but the Patriots are also getting a mini bye by playing on Thursday night.
Yep. So kind of culminating it all together, Patriots right now are actually favored by 2 points going to this game, which I guess shouldn't be that much of a surprise because they have an even record. The Cardinals have a losing record. Over under 43.5 right now. What do you got for a prediction?
It's tough to make predictions considering how inconsistent this team plays and how shitty this offense is, especially 2 of the last 3 games. So again, I'm making a prediction based more off of what I'm hoping versus what my eyes have told me. So I'm going 27-24 Patriots, where they win a grind. This is a team that they should win by. Ordinarily, if they had a different offensive play caller, this is a team that they should have won. They should win by multiple scores.
All right. I'm going to say 23-17 Patriots. Actually 23-20. It's going to be very close. And the Cardinals are almost going to the Cardinals got on the ball in the last drive to try and get a game-winning field goal, and they're going to come up short. That's what game-tying field goal. I think it's going to be very close. So this would be 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals to the Patriots, where their offense is going to sputter. They're not going to be able to get enough red zone touchdowns. They're supposed to get. They'll stall like they've always have. 1 or 2 of the touchdowns will be outside of the red zone. So. And maybe one of them will be a special teamer. So that's the other point where it comes to the season, where you were going into this Bills game saying we need to have, number one, probably a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown to win this game. So knowing that gives you an eye on how bad this offense has been.
Yeah. And then let's just hope that Bill Belichick is 1-1 this year. After this game is 1-1 versus former quarterbacks of his that only played 1 season with the team.
And then just the other thing, I'm hoping that maybe the only kind of change that can happen would just be Bill taking over the offense. But even then, at that point, it's not all of that. All of the big execution stuff would have had to be done within training camp, preseason, all that sort of stuff. So it's basically play calling at that point. But we'll see. All right, thanks for listening. Kind of hearing us vent our frustration over this, and hopefully it's a little cathartic for you all. So look forward to talking to you guys next time after hopefully a Patriots win against the Cardinals. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at PatStrahanLevelPod, and our website PatStrahanLevelPod.com. We'll get a blog up there here and there. We got to get that on a little bit more often, and look us on YouTube, subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you very much, guys. Talk to you guys next time.